everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Standard Protocol. I'm your host, Matt Sutter, and this is episode number 13. We are actually recording this one on Election Day, so, what could go wrong here? It's episode 13, the unlucky number, and today's the day we're voting for the future of our country here. So, number one, make sure you get out and vote if you haven't already. Number two, it's okay to leave some of those races blank. If you just can't get behind either candidate or either party in a certain area, there's nothing wrong with leaving those spots unfilled, because at the end of the day, you gotta live with who we elect, and we gotta live with the votes and the decisions that we made to get them elected. So please keep that in mind, and just be safe out there at the polling places today. Just wanted to remind everybody, we are up and running on Apple Podcasts. We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. All the traditional ways that you've had to find us, we're there. But we have added recently the Apple Podcasts, which has generated quite a few more listeners. So we appreciate you tuning into us on Apple Podcasts and getting us a greater footprint and a greater followership out there. The first thing I wanted to start off with today is emails. And I got an email here over the weekend. Pete from Omaha. Matt, would like to hear your take on mentoring in the workplace. What levels, ages, positions, etc.? When is it appropriate, and when should it be mandatory? Great question, Pete. Number one, we appreciate you listening, and number two, we appreciate you taking time to follow up and send in your comment in your email. And mentoring is huge, and I've always treated mentorship as if it begins day one. Anytime we onboard somebody, we're always out there putting them with a more experienced person, a mentor, if you will, sometimes field training officer or trainer. We're out there putting them with somebody that we trust, that we know will make sound decisions, and that we will encourage the new individuals in the organization to follow the rules. And when you do that, it tends to bleed down. It tends to, it tends to rub off on all the employees, because if the easy way to do things is to do it right, then you're never going to have somebody circumventing the system or trying to do it a different way, because the way our policies and procedures are geared around ease of operation that protects us. We use some common sense. We get public safety. We use some documentation abilities. We eliminate liability, and we treat people with dignity and respect out there. You've got customer service, and really that's what it's all about. So as long as we are pairing people up with experienced people and we're drilling those fundamentals into the new people, that is mentoring, and it should be starting day one in the workplace. Now, I will tell you that as you get further up in the ranks, there's less mentoring that goes on, because everybody's looking at that next promotion or that next step in their career. They're not often looking back at the succession planning aspect of things, and how do we get the next guy prepared? If I promote, how do I get the next guy prepared to step into my spot and pick up where I left off? A lot of times that succession planning goes overlooked, but that is succession planning and mentoring are one and the same, in my opinion. And I think that it is always appropriate. It should always be mandatory in any organization, especially when you have a well-defined rank structure, where there is, in any organization, you have unexpected movement. People retire, people move on, people transfer, people promote. There's always upward mobility. I mean, unless you're in a really small department or agency or corporation somewhere where you've had the same leadership for years and years and years, and it doesn't appear that they're going anywhere. But really, there's this day and age with companies, and especially with millennials and Gen Zs in the workforce, there's a lot of moving around, because people don't like to do the same job for 20 years like the previous generations do. People like to get their feet wet, do things for a few years, get it figured out, and then move on to the next step, and always keep moving forward and looking towards that next goal in their careers. So mentorship is huge if we want to encourage that growth and that movement within our organizations. And, I think obviously you have the ability to make the biggest impact through mentoring when you're dealing with the new employees, with the young folks that they haven't necessarily developed any bad habits yet, or they're not as cynical as maybe your older demographic in your workforce is. And so you have the ability to make the biggest impact with the younger crowd coming through the door. But at the end of the day, I think these things we should be mentoring at all levels. There's also such thing as leading up, where if you have a good frontline employee, there's a lot that supervisors and first line supervisors, and even, further up the chain of command, there are a lot of lessons that we can take away from those frontline employees if we're willing to stop and listen to their opinions and to their inputs. So I appreciate that question on mentoring. It's something that should be going on from day one and all throughout careers in our organizations. Every step of the way, we should be looking to better the people behind us. I've said it before. I might have even said this last week. I've always been the type that if I've struggled to get a door open, I don't just automatically slam it shut so the guy behind me has trouble getting it open as well. A lot of times I'll find a way to hold the door open so that the next guy coming through has an easier go of it than I did. And to me, that's just part of what being a leader is all about, is making sure that people are learning from us, and any steps that I've had to take to advance my career, to make advancements for myself, I pass those steps along. I make sure the people coming up beneath me I make sure that they've given the tools to be successful and the knowledge that they need to get things done in a little bit easier format than what I've had to endure. So, and I enjoy that. I quite frankly, that's one of the favorite parts of my job is taking those young, gung-ho people that are ready to take on the world and ready to go out and accomplish big things, and then just kind of steer them in the right direction so that they can do it quickly and efficiently, and that their experience level and their decision-making abilities is that of a veteran, even though they've only been with us a short while. So that's one thing I truly enjoy. So again, thank you for that question, Pete. I really appreciate you reaching out and giving us that topic of conversation. Again, if anybody else out there in the field has any questions or inputs into mentoring, feel free to shoot those our way. standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com. standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com. And with that, we'll move on to topic number 2 for the day. So I had this question come up over the past week. We took last week off. We didn't record a podcast last week. So there were some discussions, some things that I talked about with some people in my downtime. And one of the questions that came up is, has technology in our lives made us broader because we have access to so much information, or has it made us more one-dimensional in the sense that we're being controlled by these algorithms, and so we're only seeing the information that fits within our narrative or within our beliefs, and is not necessarily in accordance. We're not getting all the information. We're just using apps that control algorithms, and they let us see the stuff that they think we want to see, as opposed to seeing everything and making informed decisions based on everything that's out there, all the facts and all the data. And I think that is 100% on point. I think that's exactly what's going on right now. Is most people get their information from their phone and from all the apps that they have, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikToks, even though it's mostly videos of people dancing and, doing whatever, there's still a lot of information out there to be gained from certain accounts on TikTok. And with these algorithms, if you pass up one thing, but you take 30 seconds to watch the next video, you're going to get more videos that are like that second one that you watched. And so lo and behold, after these algorithms run their course, you're just getting information that's like that second video. You're not getting anything like the first video because that's what you passed on. So I do think that has made us very one-dimensional, and I think that that's part of the reason that you see a lot of divisiveness in the country, both politically, but also just from a human standpoint. we just don't believe in each other anymore because we are geared around the information that is being fed to us by our phones based on algorithms. So something is definitely broken in the system there, when we're being influenced by what we stop on for 10 seconds as opposed to what we stopped on for 5 seconds. And, that is the world we live in today. That is technology. Obviously, that technology is not going anywhere. It's going to be with us for probably the rest of our lives until something better comes along. But I think that's one thing we always have to remind ourselves is, are we getting all of the information that we need when we make decisions, especially on election day when you're out there voting? Are you getting one side of the story that fits, what you've clicked on the most, or are you getting all of the information, and are you being able to make a good decision based on all of the information that's out there as opposed to making a decision based on what you've been fed? So I do think that we all need to take a step back in our lives and look at how much we're on our phones and how much information we are, what are we gaining every day when we look at articles that are only geared towards our beliefs or things that we already agree with? You're not seeing opposing views. You're not seeing other data that doesn't fit the narrative. And so I think everybody should be questioning that on a daily basis when you're going about your lives. Are you getting all of the information you need to make good decisions, or are you only getting the information that the algorithm thinks you want? So with that, anybody that's more tech savvy than I am, please feel free to weigh in. Again, standard protocol podcast at gmail.com. And I really do think that there's a lot of interesting discussion on that can take place. But again, it's going to take somebody that's a little more tech savvy than I am, that understands how those algorithms work and why the system may or may not be broken. So with that, send us an email. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll move on to the, fourth topic of the day? Okay, and this topic I probably should have discussed prior to Halloween, but I wanted to discuss it just because I was reading a few articles on this the other day about cancel culture and how Halloween is it's a very risky endeavor anymore, because people try to dress up as something funny, as something spooky, as, whatever the case may be. They're trying to get a laugh or a reaction with their costume. But the problem is that the internet never forgets. And so once a picture of you dressed up, as Bin Laden or whatever gets out there, that is out there forever. And there's always the potential that an employer, whether it's a current employer or potential employer, there's always that possibility that they could stumble onto that picture from, 5, 10, 15 years ago, and that could become a big problem for you. So hopefully none of you out there made the decision to dress up, go in blackface, or any of the things that are just completely off limits and socially unacceptable these days. Hopefully we're making good decisions out there with our Halloween choices, and hopefully none of you are in hot water this week with the HR office because of something you dressed up as last week to try to get a reaction or a laugh out of people at your, Halloween gathering. But that's one thing that I've been reading a little bit about, and, pictures surface on social media. And a lot of times it happens at the most inopportune time. You're going for a promotion, you're going for a new job, you're running for office. One of these pictures comes back around from years ago, and it can easily get you canceled this day and age. So please make good decisions out there. Again, I hope none of you are in hot water this week for what you did last week. Next year, we'll give this warning a little bit before Halloween, so it's done in a little bit timelier manner. But that's just one of the things that came up over the past week is, how many people are going to be facing consequences with their employers because of what they dressed up for Halloween. So let's... I know adults love to celebrate Halloween, but it's really, for me, it's more for the kids and the kids' costumes. And, let's try to avoid putting ourselves in those bad spots if we don't necessarily have to. And there's no requirement that says you have to have some crazy costume on Halloween to make everyone laugh. So just don't do it. Just use common sense, do what's acceptable, do what's I'm not saying don't celebrate, but just make good decisions out there is where we're at. So if you have any stories on somebody that lost their job or faced consequences or discipline in their employment because of a Halloween costume or some other type of costume event they dressed up at, please let us know. I'd love to read one of those stories on the air. standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com. All right, and the last thing that I wanted to cover this week is a personal experience that I had. I had an opportunity to go rucking over the past weekend, which, if you don't know, is where you throw a weighted backpack on, and you go hike through some pretty, difficult terrain for hours at a time. It's very physically exerting, at least the course that we did was. And it was a new group of guys that I hadn't been exposed to before. It was actually a neighbor of mine that invited me to join the club and come with the group. And I really, really enjoyed it. I really had a great time. A lot more rigorous than I expected it to be, but that was good. My body needed it. But that's kind of my point in bringing this up, is that your body needs those stress relief events every now and then, where you can just go out, clear your mind, focus on the task at hand, which is walking and trekking, up hills and, in very steep and decline terrain. And the best thing about it is that, you're with a group of guys or gals that we're not talking about work. We're not judging each other. We're not talking about our problems. We're just out enjoying nature and getting a good workout in. And sometimes that is the best thing there is for your mind, to clear your head and to kind of bring you back down to earth, so to speak. So to the guys I was with, if any of you are listening, and I know a few of you probably are, I really appreciate the invite. I needed that. It was a great workout. Much more, much more rigorous than I thought it would be, but I'm looking forward to going on the next one. Please, by all means, your mental wealth and your physical health, your mental health and your physical health go hand in hand. And I can't stress enough, where if you're down on your luck right now, get out there, get some fresh air, clear your head, and really you will find that, you may be stiff for a few days. You may be sore if you hit it hard enough, but you're going to be more relaxed in the end, and you're going to have a lot of that stress lifted off your shoulders. So with that, keep finding new hobbies, keep finding things that interest you, and I think you'll be surprised at how much of a positive effect that has on your mental health overall. So with that, I wanted to close out today's episode. standardprotocolpodcast@gmail.com is the email inbox address. Keep sending those. We're on Apple iTunes, Apple Podcasts. We're on SoundCloud. We're on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe those. Get us more followers if you can. We appreciate it. Stay safe out there. Have a good one, and we'll catch you next week.